stimulus. So we're getting an increase in the frequency of the contraction. The contraction's coming quicker and quicker, quicker. Okay? These are termed waves. They summate based on the frequency. So, if I have more frequency, I get to add them. I get to add. And because they're waves, these are summing of the waves based on the frequency. Yes, no, maybe? That leads us to the tetanus. What type of muscle would be able to handle a complete tetanus? We could think of the deeper back muscles, but what about maybe, would we want cardiac to be in a complete contraction? No, because that would kill you. But what about, if you think about a complete tetanus, where it's pretty much, in contraction, almost constant, but the muscle can withstand it, but the muscle will give out too.
Baby.
Well, that could be with the smooth muscle. Yeah. Okay. But I'm thinking of, for example, marathon runners. Anybody in here a marathon runner? How far? Half marathons, 26?
The longest I ran was one marathon was 26 miles.
I'm a 10K.
A 10. How long is that? Like
10K?
6.2 miles.
Okay, so it's like, okay. Okay. That just hurts. Makes me hurt just to think about it. Now, when you cross the finish line, what happens?
I'm tired, usually hungry.
Did your legs give out on you in any way?
Not really. They're supposed to.
They get weak?
Yeah, they get a little bit, yeah.
They got weak? Okay. Have you ever seen it where the people cross the finish line and they fall out?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Okay? That would be how we could have some muscles withstanding some tetany. Okay? But what happens is they deplete their stores. Okay? So if you think about the stores of the sugars needed for the energy, if you think about the stores of the calcium, okay? If you think about the ions such as the sodiums and the potassiums, okay? They're depleting that. And they're going to get weak. Do you know how long it probably took you to recover from the 26 miles?
About a day.
Yeah, it's going to take you about 24 or more hours to recover. Meg, how about you for the 6 miles?
I was fine the next day. I might be a little sore.
Probably took you about 6 to 8 hours to recover. Which means during that time period is when you need to be replenishing the fluids and the ions. Did you carb load before you did the 26 miles?
Yeah.
Okay. How many days did you do that ahead of time?
About, probably not as much as I should, probably like
3 days maybe?
Yeah.
3 or 4 days?
Yes.
Y'all have heard of that, right? The carb loading? Because where do we store the excess glucose? In the muscle, in the skeletal muscle, okay?
They also suck that stuff in. My husband and daughter did the half marathon, and they were running, drinking that goop, like sucking the goop in.
Like, was it a sugar?
It's like a carb-loaded goop to help you.
Right.
Like while you're running, because they did the Richmond marathon, and they were
Okay.
like hurting and. I don't know. I go to a marathon. I'm crying as people are crossing the ending because I'm like, going, go! You know, it's like so emotional
Yeah.
watching these people finish.
Because they deplete those glycogen stores, okay? And the body will need to go to other means to actually give what's needed for the skeletal muscle, okay? And so loading it up before the race is going to give a good storage of glucoses when the race starts. Now, not quite sure how long it might last, okay? But afterwards, you need to go back and replenish it. Because remember, that's what's creating the ATP.
They were serving pizza after, down at the river after the marathon.
It's what's creating the ATP.
Mhm.
And that would replace or replenish those glycogen stores.
And beer. They had beer. They had
Depending
pizza.
on the beer,
Yeah.
depending on the beer, it could be very, very beneficial.
So, if, like, say someone had an eating disorder and they were constantly working out, so since they don't have that glycogen storage, or aren't they?
They're breaking down, they're actually breaking down. Well, the next thing that'll happen is the body will start to break down the fat, okay? Depending, and I'm guessing when you say eating disorder, they're not eating,
Well,
if they're working out a lot.
like calorie counting, like, so extremely low.
Well, now, depending upon how stringent they might be, most likely they're giving their body what they need. Because you can still, I mean, you can have the people who are very focused on that and they do work out a lot. Is it healthy? No. Okay, it will cause problems later in life.
So, like, if you're anorexic and you don't eat and you're working out constantly,
You're only gonna be able to do that for a certain amount of time because your body is gonna give out.
okay.
That's why for a lot of people who are anorexic, they don't have energy to do anything. They're just starving the body, the cell, whatever's in the cells is being pulled out. Which is why people who get severely anorexic and they do get the help they need and they do begin to have a better lifestyle, they don't recover. They will, they'll have a certain amount that will recover, but they won't recover to, unless it's caught in time.
Like normal size.
Yeah, unless it's caught in time. If it goes past a certain point, I mean, they can go back to a healthy eating, but the damage has already been done.
So if you don't carb load enough before running a marathon, will it tap into eating your muscles?
So,
Down?
probably not, because the person who had to run that 26-mile marathon had to train.
Yeah.
They cannot just simply get out there and do that. You know, like if I decided to go out and just run a mile marathon, I mean, I'd probably be passed out by the time I got 20 feet, you know.
They did
So-
join a training group. There was a training
Yeah.
schedule, and
So you train, and therefore you focus on the building up, you know, the strengthening of the muscles. Not so much building up, because that's a lean muscle that they're building. And then the foods and so forth, yeah. Now, the muscle that we have, okay, muscle length is important. Some muscles of the body are long, okay? Some of them are short, all right? And muscle length, all right? What we're gonna find, tension can vary. For example, this sartorius that comes from my leg, okay? Length is very long, all right? Tension could be kind of great, okay? When we talk about muscle length basically whatever that initial length of that muscle is, okay, whatever that initial length, it will actually influence the tension that it will have. So the length can play a major part on the tension. Now, if we look at a muscle is going to have its optimal length. That optimal length is going to come down to what happens in the sarcomere. Because if we go back to thinking about the sarcomere is that functional unit, all right? So if we think about, let's say these are my Z discs, okay? This is my actin and my myosin. If you remember, we had an M line, the middle line, all right? When the muscle contracts, we're going to see the thin move across the thick towards that M line, okay? The contraction can actually make that thin, the actin, come all the way to the M line. What do you think the force of that contraction is? Strong or weak? That's going to be a strong contraction. Now, when the muscle's at rest and that M line is pretty big, okay? And then, if you notice where we had those Z discs and all of this connection, could that thin stretch out a little bit more? Yes. Okay? In other words, rather than being here, we could stretch it here. And then if a contraction began and it began to move, chances are it might not hit the M line. Okay? So this tension, we would be placing tension on that muscle. Think about the warm-up. All right? What was the stretching? Not quite.
Quadriceps?
My quads. All right, I'm stretching my quads. Now, if I'm doing that, okay, and that muscle was at its norm, I took it this way, right? All right. So now, when I get ready to walk, those thin are going to do this number, right? And rather than trying to maybe keep that contraction very strong, high tension, okay, I kind of stretched it out, then I moved it, and maybe it didn't go ka-ching into the M line. All right? So tension can be affected by the length of the muscle. All right? So if we take this right here, my sartorius, and I stretched out, okay? I stretched it out. And then I need it to contract. Maybe it doesn't have to contract as hard, okay? So in this tension, what is the force that we're applying? If we have active tension, the force that will be applied for an object to be lifted when the muscle contracts. What are you thinking about for an object to be lifted? All right, Brandon, I saw you lift your arm.